So definitely that is an important aspect of being a project manager, doing these kind of little things that will help you build trust.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Again, everything you learn from experience.
We have to give ourselves and our clients grace because we are people. Sometimes bad days just happen, bad moods just happen.
Be prepping for your annual review all year.
When a problem does happen. It's never if a problem happens, it's when a problem happens.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Project Management Matters, a podcast dedicated to exploring the daily challenges and solutions in the world of project management. I'm your host, Camilla. I'm a project manager here at Flowium, where I discover my passion for project management. Each month, we'll dive into real problems project managers face and provide practical insights to help you navigate these challenges more effectively. Okay, so today I'm extremely glad to introduce you to Mike Hoagland. He's a project management and agency operations professional and the founder and lead coach at Dapper Moose Consulting, a coaching and consulting firm that specializes in eCommerce and digital agency growth. Mike has over 15 years of experience in the digital and e-commerce agency space. So I'm so glad to have you here. It's actually an honor. Thank you so much, Mike, for accepting being here.
Thanks so much, Camilla. Thanks for having me.
Yes, definitely. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I think you did a great job. My name is Mike Hoagland, founder of Dapper Moose Consulting, where we work specifically with marketing and e-commerce agencies to help them grow both on the sales side and the delivery side. So all in all, just helping agencies be more profitable and grow.
Amazing. Well, Mike has so much insight to share. He has been helping us also at Flowium for a little time, giving us some coaching, and we learned so much from him. So I wanted to bring it here so you have the possibility to hear some of his knowledge here as well. So today we're going to talk about growing your career as a PM. So Mike, what would you say it would be the first important bullet point when talking about growing your career as a PM?
Yeah. So, one of the first things to do is to look at where you're at within your agency and making sure your agency has a growth plan or at least has conveyed to you what success means for them. I think there are a lot of agencies that they don't really have a growth plan, right? They don't really know or haven't been able to demonstrate to their project managers what success really is. They might use fuzzy terms like happy clients, or they might use funny terms or, fuzzy terms, staying within budget, within timeline, but those are all very vague. They're, so making sure that there are concrete measures that you're trying to grow to is kind of that first step. If your agency doesn't have those, then it's sort of up to you to craft what success looks like so that for your next job, you're able to promote yourself properly. And I think that the bulk of what you should be tracking in terms of success is that actual success rate of projects that are coming in on budget. How often is it 90% of your projects come in on budget? Or are you upselling in 50% of your projects and getting that budget to grow even further? So finding some of those metrics that you find important to you and then tracking those over time is a great way that when it comes to that next position, for you to be able to say like, hey, not only did I do these vague things, I have these concrete results.
That's amazing. Actually, I never thought on that, in that way. But it's true that it's really important to really know what success means for you and for your agency, because that's where you need to go. So having these KPIs, monitoring them and trying to keep track on them to achieve certain goals, I definitely agree that it's one of the best ways to get that success or that goal that you're planning. Definitely, that's amazing. I never heard it in that way. What do you think are typically the key important KPIs for you?
Yeah. So when it comes to budget, the way that I like to track budget is by what I call effective billable rate, or ABR. So when all is said and done, right, you've had a project or a retainer that's sold for a certain amount, and you've put a certain number of hours as a team into that result. As an agency, your agency should be able to tell you, hey, for us to have made a profit that we want on this project, every hour we spent versus what we billed for, we should have made X amount in that hour. So US based agencies right now are probably hovering at around like 175, US an hour is considered profitable. So if you can keep measuring across your projects, across your clients, that says, hey, every project I've got, I've hit that average billable rate target or better, like that is a huge one to be measuring.
I think,
sorry, go ahead.
I think that's really important, and it's a responsibility of the project manager to make sure that your projects are within scope. You are not over hours. Measuring the hours, I know not all agencies do this, but it's really important to see if a project is really profitable or not, because maybe sometimes you have a client that is very demanding, but they are not being that profitable because you are, wasting or investing a certain amount of hours on them. And then what they are paying you, or the amount of money that you are making from that client, is not profitable. Like you don't even cover the bare minimum. So that is a client that you can release and maybe try to find another one that makes you win. So it's a win-win deal, of course, right? The agency.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the things too is around this goal is making sure that as project managers, we're actually set up for success, right? By the sales team, or by an account manager or whatever. I think most project managers, if you've been in the realm long enough, have had those experiences at jobs where you're just not even set up to succeed. Sales just needed to make the sale. It's undersold. And now you're left holding the bag. So one way that you can kind of capture some of this is by looking at that average billable rate to say like, hey, all of my projects, or a vast majority of my projects, are coming in too low in that average billable rate. And that might be some project management things, but that might also be because they've been sold incorrectly. And so if your agency isn't listening to you as you're bringing these things up, those things aren't changing. That's a great way for you to know that, hey, maybe this isn't the best place as well. The people who are, this isn't an agency that's going to facilitate your growth, because they're not setting you up to succeed. So even in the same ways that you're tracking, say, ABR for your own benefit or for the agency's benefit, it may also be then for your own benefit to help you realize, hey, is this place a good fit for me or not?
Yeah, definitely agree with that one. And we actually have to talk a little bit about advocating for yourself, right?
Yeah.
We were discussing with Mike before starting the podcast that sometimes you figure out that you should have leave some jobs that are no longer the right fit for you after bad experiences. Like in my experience, I learned it in a bad way, a little late, but now I do know that when I don't feel comfortable someplace, I try to find a different job, a company that makes me feel comfortable, that makes me feel that my work is worth it. My work also is valued, that I'm doing something that I like, that I enjoy, because at the end of the day, it's what you do every day. So you need to love that, because that's how you give your 110%. And that's the way you get your clients to succeed, because you are giving your best.
Exactly. And you've been set up to succeed. You've been given the tools that you need. You've been given the budgets that you need. So those are huge. And kind of that interesting corollary, I think, is that agencies who recognize the true importance of good project managers are also the ones who are willing to invest in their project managers. So there's, oftentimes I think we can think that, well, more pay equals more stress and that kind of thing. And in the agency PM world, that isn't necessarily a given. A lot of times more pay can actually equal less stress because that agency recognizes the importance that that project manager role has. I think it's human nature, but especially in the agency world, there's a tendency to worry about job security, not wanting to job hop too much. But at least in the agency world, for me, when I was managing PMs, working at the director level of agencies, agency turnover is large. People jump around to find the best fit. If I could keep somebody for 2.5 years or more, I considered that a success. And so even recognizing that for yourself as a PM, company loyalty isn't what it used to be. It's just the value isn't there. So, don't be afraid if you're not happy with where you're at for whatever reason, get out there, explore. And especially with so many agencies being 100% remote, it's much easier now to find an agency that is going to set you up for success, that is going to help you grow in your career, if you're not getting that at your current agency.
Yes, definitely. And I also think it's not fair for neither the company of you to stay in a place that you are not feeling happy, because you're going to start give less of you. You're going to start give your 50%. Mm-hmm. Maybe at the beginning you start to give the 80, but it goes down and you ended up giving your 40%. And that's the best that you can do because you're not happy. And this, of course, doesn't benefit the agency, the company. So sometimes this company loyalty mentality where you have to stay loyal to the company, you're actually doing, I don't know if it's bad, but it's not beneficial for the company for you to stay because you're just not giving your 100%. And maybe someone else in there wants to fill your position and give even better for the company. So definitely not be afraid to leave and find different agency. Definitely. I think that one is really important. And I remember when I started working, when I was 18, I was a completely different person. I will stay until the end, for this company loyalty thing. And you're not happy. It's not good. Like, you need to also recognize your value and know what you're worth. And if you feel that the place where you are is no longer the fit, you can definitely should change. And I say that mostly for young people that are starting on the job world. You really need to try to stand out for yourself and try to take the right decisions to have a happy life, because at the end you work to live, you don't live to work. So that's the most important thing in my opinion.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, you've got to be happy in life or nothing else is going to be worthwhile. The one thing I will say, especially because you brought up people who are kind of early in their career, and I think that's one thing that's important is yes, absolutely make sure you're finding a place that fits. But I would also say for anyone who's kind of getting started in their career is also being willing to be curious, sort of about the role that you're going into. Don't be afraid to sort of get your hands dirty, learn. Don't wait for people to sort of give you learning to kind of set you up in that role. I think I've seen a little bit, kind of a shift a little bit into folks who are coming onto a job and need sort of everything kind of either handed to them or walked through multiple times. And it is great to have some stuff handed to you, right? Like manuals, training, like, yes, they need to provide these things, but you also need to take accountability for your own growth and your own learning. If your agency isn't providing you with training, go out and find something that you think might be good. I mean, maybe it's even just a Shopify partner training, if you're doing that kind of thing, or if it's a marketing bit, learning about that marketing piece. Oftentimes your agencies will pay for it if you bring it forward. So don't be afraid to go out, or not even don't be afraid. You do kind of need to go out and learn on your own as you're doing, take responsibility for that ownership and learning. And then, if you're usually agencies will pay for it. So that's a great way to do it. But don't sit back and think that everything is going to be kind of given to you to train. Because I just don't think that's realistic kind of in today's landscape.
Yeah, definitely. Today, like, people used to learn by themselves a lot. So that's also a very important point. And adding to that, I think don't be afraid to make mistakes as well. Mm-hmm. I remember when I started, I was so afraid to make a mistake that every move that I was going to make, I talk about it with my boss. And I was the annoying employee asking everything. And I remember one boss once told me, don't be afraid to make mistakes. If they are not, of course, big mistakes that can cost real money to the company, it's okay. I mean, you can have 1 or 2 mistakes, but that is how you learn, because you know that wasn't good. So you need to, change it for the next time. You know how it doesn't work. Now you can check how it works, but not being afraid of making mistakes, I think, is very, very important.
So true. I mean, we learn the best through those mistakes, right? Through getting burned, through dealing with an angry client because of something we did. Those are the ways that, that we do truly learn. And as I was managing other project managers to kind of your boss's thing, like the ones I think that I love to say was like, I want you to make mistakes. I just don't want you to make the same mistake over and over again. So as long as that's not happening, as long as it's the same mistake, but it's new mistakes, that shows me that you're going out of your comfort zone. You're trying new things, having those conversations, with clients as you learn kind of those soft skills to chat through. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I think that's another kind of advocating for yourself tie-in, or kind of realizing if you're in the right place. If you're being taken to task every time there's a little mistake, especially if it's something that you haven't had an opportunity to learn before. But if you're being taken to task for these little mistakes, really feeling like ground down without the training, that's a great indicator that this might not be the right place for you and your growth long term.
Yeah, there are a lot of people and agencies, in my experience, that think that everything should be perfect, that the growth path is like this, and it's not. Like, it's like this, and you definitely need to make some mistakes, and that's not the end of the world. So if someone from your agency is getting completely nuts because you make a tiny mistake, definitely that shouldn't be a place to be, because that's what it's all about. Like, you don't learn if you don't make mistakes, if you don't risk yourself. And also, I think not only learn, but you don't grow. You need to try things out of the little square where you work. You try to different things, and that's how you know if there is, a new tool that works better than the tool that you were using, or if there is a different way to do something. You try, and if it doesn't work, okay, you go back to what you know. But if not, I think you should definitely go and try to find different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And not even just the tools too, but we are, as project managers in an agency, this is a person-to-person business. We're humans dealing with other humans. The way that I convey a message to one person might be received one way, and I can, convey that exact same message to another person, and it's received in a different way, say more poorly. So that is we have to give ourselves and our clients grace, because we are people. Sometimes bad days just happen, bad moods just happen. And, a communication mistake or things like that can always be fixed. Not getting too kind of bound up in, communication, worrying about how someone is going to take something, and instead just kind of move forward the best we can. And then in that, you do sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly build up those soft skill communication tools that's going to, help you in your career down the road navigate all of those various conversations, good and bad. Probably more bad. We're project managers. There's a lot of bad news to be delivered as well. But so as you get those skills to deal with those challenges, that is, that's really a great source of growth and pride in your own career, and something that makes your career easier to navigate the more you kind of build up those communication tools.
Definitely. And that is something that you only learn by experience.
Yeah. There's no one who can tell you how to do it. You've got to be burned multiple times. There's people who can give you tips, but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to write that email without having your boss check it first and be comfortable with it.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I had a conversation about this with my sister-in-law. She's starting on the hunting of a shop and working for some little agencies, and I was trying to give like all this kind of wisdom, you can say, but I realized that there are some stuff that you need to live through that to really learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's as you're living through it, it's making sure that you have, a community behind you, right? If you've got other PMs in your agency, that you're talking with them, or if you're one of only just a couple PMs at your agency, making sure you're making connections with other PMs, because there are things that only agency project managers go through or deal with or understand. And I think there's a big component to community and a kind of a light touch therapy, if you will, to make sure everyone's like, no, you're not crazy. We've all dealt with that. That really helps kind of get through some of that loneliness and some of that stress that project management can bring, is by making sure you've got a good community of other project management folks that you can talk to.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, if you're a manager, project manager, lead, you should definitely try to create that environment on your team. For example, here in Flowium, we have a meeting once a week with all the PMs and our lead, and it's like very therapeutic. Sorry, I don't know how to say it in English, but therapeutic, like
therapeutic, yeah.
Very a therapy session, like when all the PMs are sharing their experience with clients, giving support to each other, emotional support as well, but also advice, because you have some more experienced project managers than others. So maybe those project managers already went through what you're going right now, and they can give you a piece of advice and help you navigate that issue in a different way. So definitely having that space is something that everyone, like in every role, but I would say even more for project managers that are doing client facing, it's really important. And having a lead that also brings you that safe place where you can share what's going on with your clients without being afraid or of being punished. That is also very important for you to have a guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. That team, and like I said, or as we were talking about, what you guys do at Flowium, I think is a great example. If you happen to be a project manager at an agency and you don't have like a weekly PM team meeting, that's something I would say advocate starting to do. If you've got two of you or more, you should be meeting every week just to go over, hey, what are the struggles, sharing notes. Because a lot of times things will come up, right? Like, oh, actually, we're both having, an issue with so-and-so developer, for some reason. And hey, can we work together to solve some of those problems? Or, as you were mentioning, hey, this client's, being a real jerk, and another person has, has had, oh yeah, I've dealt with that before. And there might not even be advice there. The advice is just, hey, push on through. You're doing great. Eventually this project will be over. So yeah, I think it's great the way that you guys do it, and other agencies who have that PM meeting is definitely the way to go.
Absolutely. Okay, well, jumping into a different subject, we were talking before the meeting as well, before the podcast, sorry. Be prepping for your annual review all year. Do you want to elaborate that idea a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully your agency has some sort of annual review mechanism, right? It's the way that most of us get raises or promotions. It's the way also that we're just confirming with, our bosses that we're doing the job that they're hoping to see. So if you haven't had an annual review within the last year, I would say that's something to advocate for, right? Just so you're taking time to hear outside of the context of any specific project, hearing from either your boss, or if it's a 360 review, hearing from the rest of your teammates, how you're doing. But also, as I said, for a lot of us, that annual review is also the place that we advocate for ourselves for pay raises, or even potentially moving into a new title, all that good kind of stuff. And something that happens very often, and I've fallen into this trap many times, is we completely forget about the annual review until about 2 months before it starts to happen. And then we just start thinking through everything that's happened like between then and the review. So our entire yearly review actually becomes a review of the last 2 months. And that could have been a bad 2 months. Sometimes projects do go off the rails for whatever reason. Stressful things happen around that time. So you could have had a great year for 10 months, had a little bit of a rough 2 months, but because that's the only thing anyone remembers, that's what gets put in the annual review. And that is a bit of a bummer. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is create a boost book for themselves. And we use book here, but this could be a Google document. This could be whatever. But it's a place where every time you receive a compliment from a client, especially in writing. Maybe it's Slack, maybe it's email, maybe it was in a meeting or whatever. If you've got it written down, grab a screenshot of it and throw in that document. When you finished a project, maybe you're only 2 months since your last review, right? So you've got another 10 months to go. You brought in a difficult project, on budget, or you upsold a client into, increasing their budget by 50% for whatever reason. All of those good things that are good for the agency, good for your career, just jot them down with a date and what it was. If you can get a screenshot, wonderful, but enough for you to remember, hey, here's all the good stuff that I've achieved over this year, so that when your annual review comes, you already have that written down for the entire year. So even if the last 2 months, kind of sucked, you've got 10 months then worth of all these great things that you can advocate for yourself. I also find it beneficial outside of the annual review stuff. We all go through tough times. Most project managers will experience burnout a couple times in their career. I know I've done it at least twice, probably more. But sometimes that boost book can be exactly what you need to keep yourself going. When you're just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Every client, where I could feel like every client's mad at me, I'm terrible at this job. You can go open up that boost book and kind of just help yourself for just a second. Oh, wait, that's not true. Here are all these compliments I've gotten from clients, or here's all the ways that I've succeeded. And that can help get you through that rough period as well. But even if you're not using it for that, using it for advocating for your annual review, I think is such a great way to be able to advocate for yourself for those pay raises.
Well, that is amazing advice. I never thought about that, but it's actually pretty good because it's right. Sometimes you have like rough weeks or months, and not always maybe with the clients, but with yourself, that you feel, I know, BFCM, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you are going crazy and you think you're the worst project manager ever. And having this boost book showing you like all your wins and all that you achieve, and the compliments by the clients, I think it would really help for you to keep going, trying
Totally.
that rough phase.
Yeah. And one other thing too that I forgot to mention as well with those boost books, especially if you got client quotes on there, say it is time to search for your new thing, putting in client quotes into your resume is actually pretty cool. Like we advocate for those of us who are in e-commerce, in marketing, right? Those client reviews, those reviews on products are so important. Why not be including reviews and testimonials for yourself, from those happy clients? So, another great thing is even if you're looking for your next gig, this boost book can be helpful in helping you find that next gig.
That's amazing. Well, this is amazing. To be honest, I never thought about it, but definitely, being able to show all your hard work is pretty important because, of course, sometimes it's not like the lead's fault, but they have to manage 10 PMs, and of course they are going to forget things. And like Mike said, if your annual review, your 2 months prior the annual review, you're not doing great, probably that is what is going to go into the annual review, because sometimes the bad things have more weight than the good things. So you need to be able to stand out for yourself and say, no, and not everything is bad. This is what I've done. These are my achievements, and being able to show that and show proud of for yourself. It's really important. Definitely. I remember in my last review, I bragged a lot about myself. I was like searching for every goal, every accomplishment, everything that I done, and showing off, because it's what you work so hard every day. Like you work hard every day, so you should be able to show that to your lead. If you don't do it there, where are you going to do it?
Totally. Yeah. And, especially managers of project managers or delivery, heads or whatever, the only time they're really getting involved with clients is when something's going wrong, right? So I remember being a manager and just being like, man, I just wish I could talk to a client that was happy, right? But I didn't need to do that. If clients were happy, the PMs were handling it all. So that was great. So there is that balance of visibility where it is the more negative things, even though there could be a lot fewer of them. Those are the things that get visibility to your managers, to your bosses, simply because it needed to escalate. And that's not even necessarily a bad reflection of the PM. It's, hey, there's just a situation that requires a manager to jump in. So those are the things that are top of mind. As a manager, sometimes we don't get to see the really good stuff that's going on, just because it's not a fire that we have to put out. So, doing that for yourself as well and making sure that your boss sees the good stuff is huge and is, I think, often overlooked.
Definitely. And here at Flowium, something that our customer service team does is having once in a while a customer service call with the clients. So it's good because sometimes they're just checking on clients and see how they are feeling with the company. And you will receive some very good news once in a while, because that inspection, let's say, get in a really good place. And that is one of the ways that leads executive team can see like the good things that you are doing. But if they don't have that, it should be you, the one showing off for yourself and talking about what are you doing good, instead of always having to talk about the mistakes or bad things that happen, because you always are going to have bad things, and even more in like one whole year. I'm pretty sure you're going to have one, more than one. So yeah, I love this idea. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Of course. I'm glad to hear you were boasting about yourself. We're often, I think, too humble, right, with our bosses and things like that.
I used to have a manager in a different agency that you need to do a self-evaluation for your review. And I was always giving me the lowest score. Always. And he always said to me, like, I don't understand what you give yourself like such a low score. You're a great employee. And that happened 1, 2, 3 times. At the third time, my boss was a little concerned because he was like, when an employee scores themselves 3 times in a row bad, something weird is happening. Like, so nothing weird was happening. The only thing that was happening, it was that I was too harsh on myself, and I wasn't being able to recognize my hard work. So again, like we just talk, everything you learn is learned by experience. I think that's the best way. So that helped me to realize that I'm actually good at what I'm doing, and I need to show that, because if I don't show it, no one is going to. And even though this boss gave me a lot of compliments, at the third time that I score myself wrong or bad, he was starting to feel like, okay, something is happening. Maybe I'm not seeing this employee well. Maybe she is making mistakes. She is not doing well. And I ended up creating a situation that actually doesn't exist. And also another thing that helped me realize that I was qualified for everything that I was doing was when I started to look for a different job. One time that I needed to change companies, I started to realize that I did have experience. I did have knowledge. I was able to find a good job, because sometimes you are so trapped on your everyday work, on doing simple tasks, and maybe, I don't know, you have 10 tasks and you're not being able to solve 7 of them. So you feel like you're the worst. You don't know anything, and you're not good for the job. So when I went away from that and tried to look for a different company, I realized that I did have knowledge. I did have experience. I did have what it takes to have a good role. So yeah, again, everything you learn from experience.
Totally. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to, see that for yourself and recognize, I think where a lot of people start to recognize that is they've come upon a situation that they've never experienced that specifically before, but they take a stab at how to address it and it works out and it's great. And that's where people start to really learn, like realize they're like, oh wait, I do know what I'm doing. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, definitely. And then let's jump on into a different topic now. This idea of, for the client, you represent your agency, but internally at the agency, you represent your clients. Would you like to talk us a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. This was something I took from a project management leader, so it's not my own. It's Sam Schacht. She's great, and yeah, it's this idea that you kind of play 2 roles, and you're serving 2 different people, and how you're representing those people. So I think everyone assumes, right, or kind of takes for granted, hey, when I'm working with the client, I'm representing the company. We kind of lose track of that, but that goes back to the whole, hey, ABR thing. Are we within scope? Am I making sure that this project is profitable? That's my responsibility to the company. But your responsibility to your clients is also to make sure that they're getting the best work from your team. They're getting solutions that matter. They're not wasting money, with you. So you have to be able to for your team to advocate on behalf of the client. If a, developer or strategist comes to a problem with an overly complicated solution, that might be something that you need to push back internally on, right? That's not necessarily something you're going to want to bring to your client right away. If you know that, hey, they're not a very tech literate client, like we can't go with a solution that requires a lot of technical expertise, for example. Yeah. So really knowing those things, really knowing what's beneficial. And I think where a lot of PMs hit a point that they have some trouble getting over. And that's having enough subject matter expertise in what they're being a project manager of. So for me, I came up through development project management. Other people, are coming up through a marketing project management. So you need to be able to understand that lingo, right? As a PM, I can talk about APIs and webhooks and how all those things work, even though I could never build one myself, but I can have that same lingo. Marketing, the same thing, right? Being able to talk about campaigns and flows and understanding that language, even though you may never build one yourself, but you can understand that language, and having enough understanding of what it is your team does, and then enough understanding of what your client actually needs, that you can convey those needs back to the team in a more technical way that you might not normally. So a lot of PMs where I see PMs getting stuck, or they fall out of this role, or if maybe I think they're not right for the role, because not everybody is right for this job, but is showing that level of curiosity. Am I curious enough to ask the client more in-depth questions to get what they need to learn about them? Am I curious enough to ask my development team or my design team why they made the choices that they made? Yes, this takes more time out of my schedule. Yes, it takes more time out of their schedule to explain these things to me. A lot of times when we're focusing on efficiency, too much efficiency, but we lose those connections. We lose that learning. So as a project manager, not being afraid to ask, why did you make this decision? What are the implications of this decision? And then you can kind of start communicating that back and forth. And then over time, pretty rapidly, as the sooner you start asking why from both sides, the more rapidly you're being able to advocate on both sides. Maybe telling a client, hey, we shouldn't go down this route because I know it's going to be expensive. And I know you've said your budget's one of your most important things. So let me be an advocate for you, client, in keeping our budget squared away, rather than even involving devs in a new discussion, for example, that's going to blow up and cost more money. So that's kind of what I mean in terms of being a representative for both sides, and kind of showing that level of curiosity to make sure you can represent both.
Oh, this is actually great. Definitely, I agree that you need to be like a translator. We cannot talk about that on the previous episode, but in a different area, like being a translator for the strategy to the team, the rest of the team, creatives, technicians. It's true. Project managers also need to be a translator for the clients to the agency and vice versa. I definitely think that you need to know your client, knowing how technical they are, how knowledgeable they have. For example, I have a client that is very technical and they know a lot about tech stuff and marketing as well. So I know that I can use certain terms with them, and I can give certain complex tasks to them as well, or request certain kind of things. But I do have other clients that they are not that involved on the tech side. Maybe they are more, content creators or content managers. So you need to be able to translate that technical request as good as possible, and also trying to let them know if they need your support. You are able to give that. Like if they need more developers kind of stuff, don't worry. Like if you are not understanding this, I can invite my team, my tech team, to help you, to guide you around whatever you need to do. Because we need to give solutions to the client, not more issues. Not every client is the same, but there are some of them that if you start to give them more problems, they are going to get upset. Because they are already managing a whole agency. So they need you to fix things. Basically, they hired you to fix things. So you need to be able to give that solutions. And I mean, you have a whole team around you that can help you manage anything that you need to achieve. maybe they are there by themselves. If it is a little company, maybe sometimes clients are only like two founders and that's it. So they really need you to stand up for themselves and help them to fix things, and vice versa, giving like the feedback to your team. I have a client that is very has very specific language because it's a very specific product, very medical product. So you sometimes need to translate everything that the feedback that they are giving you to the team in a certain way that they understand.
Totally.
Because you work in both ways, managing information back and forth.
Totally. And I think you kind of have two things there. That for the most recent one you said, I think that is so important in terms of translating, right? If a client has given me a question or a task, or they want to achieve something, and I don't fully understand what the end result is that they're asking for, why they're asking for it, and what it's supposed to look like in the end, I don't have enough information to give that to my development team. If I just pass that to my development team, they might try to build something. It's probably going to be wrong. Then we're going to give that to the client. They're going to be angry, and back and forth. So I need to understand, even though I might understand how it's going to be built, I need to understand what that end result is supposed to look like and why. And then I can go, as long as I understand that, I can work with the development team on that. And I think that's where that being that advocate for the client again comes in or as the client comes in, do I actually understand what they're asking for and why? And if I don't, then I need to invest more with that client.
Yeah, definitely. And I cannot tell the amount of times that I'm reading once and once again a feedback just to really get there and really be able to divide it into little fragments to share with my team. And sometimes you need to just ask again, because sometimes client gives feedback. Maybe they are doing things quickly. So they go in there, check and give feedback in like 2 sentences. And maybe it's not that clear what they mean. And you need to just ask again. I think that is better trying to fully understand before passing information than passing information, having your team asking you, hey, I don't understand this. Can you ask? Or maybe doing things wrong and go back to the client. The client is going to get upset, definitely, because that happened to me a few times until I learned. Because like you're sending things in a way that was requested. So yeah, I love this idea of being like a translator for like both ways, both parts. Yeah, I think this is a great thing.
Cool. And another little thing I wanted to add on there, because you had mentioned, I think a great example as well, is when you are presenting the client with options, right? I think it happens all the time, right? Like, hey, we could do this thing, or we could do this thing, or we could build this thing one of 2 ways. And we might present it to the client as like an or option. You can do this, or you can do this. One of the things that we forget to do as project managers, or even as an agency team, is to say, which one do we recommend they do? And it could be for whatever reason, like, hey, we recommend this option because it's cheaper, it's lower in the budget, or we recommend the more expensive option, but because it's more future proof. A lot of time when we're coming at problems with a lot of expertise and kind of understand the assumptions that go into each decisions, where your clients don't. So if we just give them like an or option, we're not really advocating on behalf of them. We're just saying, hey, you've got 2 options, pick whatever you want. But if we provide the 2 options, the 3 options, and say, hey, based on everything I know about you, we recommend going with option C, you're then doing it's the best of both worlds. You're giving them all the options and all the info, but you're also taking away that stress of like making a decision without an opinion. You've given your opinion, and that goes a long way to reducing your client's cognitive load and the decisions that they have to make. And usually those are the types of clients that stick with you longer. They're a lot happier. And then they trust you as well, because you've given them the solutions that are working.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. That increase their trust on you as well. And that will make things way easier in the future, because they know that they can trust you. And sometimes maybe you even have clients that I do have a client that they didn't even check we work for an email. Flowium is an email marketing agency, so we deliver emails. And I have a client that he didn't even take a look at the emails. Like, we are allowed to send the emails without having him reviewing them, because he trusts us so much and trusts our work and our judgment that he's comfortable letting us make the final decisions. And of course, you get there doing these kind of little things, giving options, showing that, okay, there is this issue. We can fix it by this. Not only saying that we have this issue, figure it out.
Yep.
No, you need to give them options, give them solutions. That's how they trust you. That's how they know that if even sometimes I did have clients that have maybe an internal issue that there's nothing to do with us, but they came to us asking for help because they trust our experience and our expertise. So definitely that is an important aspect of being a project manager, doing these kind of little things that will help you build trust in your clients. And it also create like kind of a bond. And in the future, if you do make a mistake, you're going to have like more flexibility with the client on like how it's going to be received. Maybe the client is, okay, I know you're all the time you're doing things right. Mistake can happen to everyone. But if you don't build that kind of rapport, bond, relationship with the client, things are going to be way difficult.
Totally. Yeah. That building that trust. And as you said, I think building that rapport goes a long way, in terms of when a problem does happen. It's never if a problem happens, it's when a problem happens. And so I think, yeah, you touched on something that's great that we hadn't even touched on, but is having those social skills to build that rapport, with the client. What are they doing on their vacations? Do they have kids? Like, all of those things to learn, again, going back to that curiosity, learning about your client grows that rapport. So when that mistake does happen, it's easily forgivable. We can all move on because that trust and rapport is there. I think that's such a good point on your side about that rapport bit.
Yes, definitely. And we talked about that in a past episode with Christian. I know if you remember.
Yeah.
But also bring it up to the meetings. Maybe personal stuff, not that personal, but I know what you like and you don't like. Maybe movies, maybe, I remember one time I have my dog with me because she was bad behaving. So I needed to have it with me. And this client went into the meeting and she noticed her and we started to talk about the dog and how many dogs she had. And she even stand out, went to her bedroom. She brought a book showing me that she had the same dog and a story that she created for her. And it created this whole bond that makes things way smoother later. And also we had a client that they left, but they came back from a different agency. Like, they maybe changed agencies, but they are back with us because they trust us. And sometimes there are clients that even request for the same project manager. Maybe they came back from a different agency, or maybe they dissolve one business and start another one. And when they are back, they request, I want this project manager to handle my projects. And that talks way good for about you. Like, it's the best thing that can happen to you as project manager is having a client wanting to have you as a project manager again.
Totally. Going back to it, that's one of those instant entries for the Boost book.
Yes, absolutely. That's the first thing that you need to highlight there. Definitely. Okay, great. So we are getting to the end of this episode. Mike, is there anything else that you would like to add?
The only thing, is if you are a project manager or you're in agencies with project managers, we're starting a pretty cool thing at Dapper Moose. We're calling it the Sync Up. It is a place for agency project managers specifically. There's a Slack instance available to everybody. So learning from one another, including myself and other moderators. We have an Ask Me Anything once a week where you can just get on with myself or another project management expert to ask about specific questions, all that great kind of stuff. And then presentations once a month around a specific topic, scope control, those sorts of things. So if you're interested at all in checking it out, dappermooseconsulting.com/syncup, or connect with me through email or LinkedIn, get you more information. But it's a growing community of support, and I'm excited to be behind it.
That's amazing. I'm gonna request to add that information on the description of the video, so you can jump in there. I think as we talk, it's very good to have a safety net, a support net with other project managers to give you experience, solutions.
I know that therapy, like we mentioned before. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So I love that you are doing this. Thank you so much. It's like a great space for project managers to jump on and feel supported, and of course having the opportunity to learn from someone like you, and it's pretty amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we're excited for it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for being there, for accepting to be in the podcast today. It was amazing the amount of knowledge that you have around this subject, and being able to hear you share all of this experience, it really make a difference. And we definitely touch some subjects that I haven't touched before on the episode. So I'm really glad that I invite you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Thank you guys for being here. One more episode. I see you next month with a different one, and have a beautiful rest of the week. Thank you. Bye.
Turn your emails into a revenue machine. Our email marketing audit gives you full clarity on what's working, what's not, and exactly what to fix first. Here's how it's done. We start with your list growth, reviewing your opt-ins and SMS collection for quick wins. Then, we audit your email flows using our traffic light system. Green for what's great, yellow for what needs work, and red for what's missing. Next, we check your campaigns and segmentation, benchmark your performance, and give tips to boost clicks and conversions. We even analyze your deliverability and design so your emails look great and actually land in inboxes. But the best part? You get a live walkthrough with one of our specialists, plus an actionable plan you can implement right away. Get your audit in just 3 business days.
Hey, if you're watching this and you like what you see, please hit subscribe and hit the bell, because it helps us grow our channel.